GALP.
Hey guys, and welcome to GALP. It's me, Bish, for another weekly episode, and we decided to do things a little bit differently on GALP. I've got new equipment. Once again, I keep on buying new equipment, isn't it? I got a Elgato Wave Low Profile Microphone Arm. We're not sponsored by Elgato, but I really would like to be. So Elgato, if you're listening, please sponsor us. Speaking of sponsors, we are sponsored by Crunchyroll and Sugoimart. Check them out in the descriptions below. Also, if you want to support the show, make sure you give us a 5-star rating on iTunes, Spotify, or any platform of your choice that you're listening to this podcast on, as well as sharing it with your friends and doing all that fun stuff as well. Give us a 5-star rating while you're at it. Wow. And join our Discord, getlifepodcast.com/Discord. Today, we're going to be talking about Dynasty Warriors. I'm going to be talking a little bit about how I got into the series a little bit. We're trying out this new thing on GALP so that we get monthly episodes as well as weekly ones. And you're like, whoa, that's insane. Yes, it is. Let me run it through, you guys. So the idea behind it is that we wanted to upload more frequently, and we thought to do that we need to be a bit more organized, which is fair. I think that is a fair observation. We do need to be a bit more organized, and the way we're going to do that is that you're still going to get your monthly episodes as they used to be, that sort of 2-hour, 1.5-hour episode at the end of the month, and every episode leading to that episode within that month will be sort of focused around that. So this month we're testing out with December. This month we're going to be doing Dynasty Warriors because I thought, you know what? This is sort of like a pseudo rebrand of the podcast. How many times have we rebranded the podcast? Like a million times, isn't it? But we're testing out this new format of show. We learned a lot with review roundups, which we're still technically going to be doing, but you kind of maybe see review roundups get reintegrated into this style of show. So the reason why I was doing that was because back in the day when we did the podcast, we were doing weekly episodes, and sometimes we were posting 3-4 times a week, and it was really beneficial for us in terms of growth. So yes, we do want to grow as a podcast. We do have ambitions. We do want to get the podcast to a point where it can be more sustainable for all of us, and we want to produce awesome content for you guys as well. So I think it's a win-win. So yeah, back in the day when we did the podcast initially, like 14 years ago now, we did it, and by we I mean myself. I do weekly episodes kind of like this, but it was like 10-15 minutes. Sometimes I think my first podcast episode was 3 minutes, and we were talking about Black Ops 1. It was back in the day. It was 2010. It was a long time ago. And I sounded like this, hey guys, because I was going through puberty. Anyway, that's the point. So, talking about Dynasty Warriors today and how I kind of got into it. I know I might have done an episode like this before, and you might be wondering, Bish, you've already told us how you got into Dynasty Warriors. Yes, I did say that. But I want to talk a bit more about the nostalgia behind it. So, for me, Dynasty Warriors was always a game that meant so much, right? Because when I got the PlayStation 2, we had a few games, and a lot of them were just dog shit. We were kids, right? I think PS2 came out in like 2000, I think. We got it basically on launch, and there wasn't that many games that we were interested in. There was like Rayman, there was like Roller Coaster Tycoon, which I hate it. I'm sorry, I don't like Roller Coaster Tycoon. I tried it again. I tried Planet Zoo as well. I'm sorry, Frontier. Planet Zoo was fun, but I don't know, like a game like Planet Zoo, you need to sit down on your PC and play, and just like, you can't sit down and enjoy it from the comfort of your own home. I would like to play a game like Planet Zoo on the Switch. Now, Frontier, if you're going to do that, do it. Probably won't be able to run it on the Switch, but it would be really nice to have more of those simulation style games on the Switch, you know? Because that's where I prefer to play them. That's just it. Anyway, besides the point. Like if I'm playing City Skylines on Switch, or if I'm playing like Prison Architect on Switch, I really like that because you can use a touchscreen. Anyway, we're here talking about Dynasty Warriors. So for me, Dynasty Warriors was very beneficial, and like it was a core gaming memory. Don't get me wrong, like my family used to play games all the time. They used to have a Sega Mega Drive, and they played Sonic and all these other games on the Mega Drive. I think after that broke, you can hear the story of how it broke on a previous episode of the podcast. We talk about it a lot. But after that broke, I don't think they were gaming for a while. My cousins had a Nintendo, like a Super Nintendo, and like a Nintendo Entertainment System. So they were more of a Nintendo family, and they also got the PlayStation 2 alongside with us. And so we were just basically playing all these PS2 games. There were some games that we were sharing between one another, like Crash Bandicoot and stuff. But there were just some games that I didn't want to share with anyone. And to be fair, we didn't share games at all, mostly. It was just maybe Crash or like a racing game or something, like Gran Turismo, we'd like share it or whatever. But like Dynasty Warriors, I would never share it with anyone. Kessan would never share it with anyone because those games meant so much to me. Dynasty Warriors was, I remember back in the day for Dynasty Warriors 7, they did this, and it was Chin that did this. It was like an online campaign where he got people to scream Dynasty Warriors is my life. And it was just a fantastic campaign. You can probably find it on YouTube still, or maybe Koei took it down, I don't know. But it just generated hype for this series. And I'm still feel a bit old because I started off with the OG. I started off with Dynasty Warriors 2. I say that's the OG because technically Dynasty Warriors 1, or the original Dynasty Warriors, was a fighting game on the PlayStation 1. And for all intents and purposes, when I'm referring to Dynasty Warriors, I'm not referring to that game or any spin-offs from there. I'm referring to Shin Sangoku Musou, which is effectively New Dynasty Warriors, which is any game that starts from Dynasty Warriors 2. So yeah, Dynasty Warriors 2 was my first game, and I was intrigued by it because I liked weaponry. I just liked it. Me and my dad used to go to museums a lot, you know, like the British Museum, Science Museum, and stuff like that, and they would have, like, especially in the British Museum, they'd have a lot of like weaponry from like all these different civilizations, especially like Chinese civilizations, ancient Egyptian culture, you know, medieval times. They had like weaponry from all over, and I thought swords were really cool and badass, and I was like, no way, there's a game where you could play with swords. And Dynasty Warriors 2, that was one of the reasons I could not care for the story. Like, I genuinely was young enough at that time. I mean, what, I was born in 94. By the time Dynasty Warriors 2 came out, I was 6. So I was young enough that I didn't really care about the story as such. I just played it for the hack and slash action. It was very easy, it was very simple. I say easy, there were some elements in which I couldn't necessarily understand as a 6-year-old, because bear in mind there's a lot of text in that game, you know, to understand where to go. I needed some assistance, and a lot of the time, you know, there were other family members that were telling me where to go while I was playing this game, at least at the very beginning, because I didn't know how to play this game. Or I'd watch, you know, my older sisters play the game, especially as Dian Wei. Like, my oldest sister, she's a big fan of Dian Wei, always been. That was like her main character in Dynasty Warriors, and I used to watch her play, and I was like, no way, I need to play as Dian Wei because she's passing all of these missions as Dian Wei, and I'm like, I need to play as Dian Wei. And I pretty much played the game Dynasty Warriors 2 as Dian Wei for the whole time. I just played as Dian Wei, and I didn't really play as other characters. And up until recently, you know, I got a copy of Dynasty Warriors 2, which was very difficult to find one that actually works, but CEX hooked me up, I guess. I say hooked me up. I went to CEX and I picked it up. I paid like £4 for it, okay? Which kind of goes to show, like, some PS2 games are really expensive and others not so much. Dynasty Warriors 2 was an interesting one because, like I said, I only played as Dian Wei and I didn't get as much out of it. I went back and I played it and I was like, wow, there's a lot of more in this game that I didn't necessarily realize, and it still holds up. Yes, it's very sort of early 2000s, still sort of PlayStation 1 era polygons, or like that sort of in between. It was very impressive for the time, don't get me wrong. It was very, very impressive for the time, and it still is impressive from a nostalgia point of view, especially for early PS2 graphics. It was quite impressive, and it was just a fun game. Like, I don't know, like, you know, when you had those like sound effects back in the day and you'd like get that 1000 KOs and you just hear this. That was actually from Dynasty Warriors 2. I pulled that one directly from Dynasty Warriors 2's game files. But when you see stuff like that, when you hear that for the first time and you're like hyped, you're like, yeah! Or the first time you see the flashback and you're like, oh, what's going on here? Like, as a kid, the sounds were very appealing. The visuals were appealing. I could not care for the story. And I didn't really care for the story of Dynasty Warriors until Dynasty Warriors 4 when I got a little bit older. And we'll talk about Dynasty Warriors 4 in a future episode, because today we're going to be talking about 2 and 3. I didn't necessarily know that in Dynasty Warriors 2 that there was cheat codes. I didn't know that you can play as other characters. What I really liked about Dynasty Warriors 2 is that you'd get almost a grade, which was kind of very interesting because a lot of hack and slash games, especially nowadays, that are trying to sort of emulate that old school arcade style of hack and slash, do it. Dynasty Warriors doesn't necessarily do it anymore. You still have like a grading screen, a ranking screen, and a level up screen and whatnot, but it doesn't feel the same. I don't know how to explain it. Like, if you play a game like One Chambara, I'm trying to remember, is One Chambara Z? If you play a game like that, it's very much reminiscent of like the old school Dynasty Warriors games. At the end of a stage, you get a ranking, and you get like, I don't think you got a ranking in Dynasty Warriors 2 actually, but you get like your score and all that kind of stuff, and you get your level up, and you hear that war cry. I was going to do it myself, but then I realized I got the button. There you go. And stuff like that, it made the game just so much more exciting than it actually was. And it was just varied for the time. You got all these different textures. You had battles at nighttime, you know, Battle of Guandu, Wuzhang Plains. That's how I used to remember it as a kid, because I couldn't read properly. I'm saying that. I was able to read, but like, you know, when children read, right, they're not necessarily the best at reading, especially at younger ages, right? But I was like, oh, that says Wuzhang Plains. And, you know, that was always kind of stuck in my head. But yeah, Wuzhang Plains, Battle of Cherbi, all of these battles, they were just so intriguing because they were just different, right? You had some battles you're walking on sand, some battles you're walking on dirt roads, cobblestone, wood, and you'd hear like those little and this is, for me, this is almost like my first game, right? Like the first time you're walking on the wooden planks on the boats in Cherby, and you hear the sound being different from that to walking on grass or whatever, and it was shocking. It was like these little things that made me really intrigued by the game, and I was just so excited by it. I was like, no way, this is really, really cool. And I got so much use out of that game to the point where we went through like 3 or 4 discs and only playing as Yanwei. And that was the only character that I completed Dynasty Warriors 2 with, Yanwei. I did play as Guan Yu, don't get me wrong, I did play as Guan Yu. I didn't necessarily realize that you can complete Hulao Gate without necessarily fighting Lu Bu. I always thought that you needed to fight Lu Bu, and as a 6-year-old, I was like, hell yeah, I'm gonna beat Lu Bu, and well, that's what I did, and that's what made the game very difficult for me. And when I saw, obviously, when my sister done it, she went and she fought Lu Bu direct with Jianwei, and I was like, no way. I tried it with all the other characters. I think I tried it with Xiahou Dun, I tried it with Zhang Fei, Guan Yu. I got very close with Guan Yu, but it wasn't that successful, and I was like, you know what, I'll just go back to Jianwei, because Jianwei had very large health bar. He had this amazing attack, I believe it was square square triangle, where he'd hack with his axe and then throw it. That really helped me out a lot, because that attack basically meant that you could throw your axe and it would hit Lu Bu from behind if he was defending, and it would put him off guard, and then you can continue to attack him. Then you do your Muso, then you do the same sort of steps again. That was how I kind of defeated Lu Bu as a 6-year-old. So I was at a 6-year-old, I'm learning tactics, I'm learning patterns, I'm learning a lot from Dynasty Warriors. And to some degree as well, I was learning history. Like I said, I wasn't necessarily as invested in the story as, you know, compared to the other games, but it was the start of something, and that was just magical for me. We're going to go on a break, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about my sort of recent playthrough of Dynasty Warriors 2 as well as Dynasty Warriors 3. Yeah, we'll go on a break and we'll be back in a moment. Now it's a better time than ever to be an anime fan with Crunchyroll, that has the world's largest anime collection. You can watch new episodes 1 hour after they air in Japan, enjoy access to unlimited ad-free anime, read hundreds of chapters across dozens of manga titles, and save with exclusive Crunchyroll store discounts. So if you guys go to crunchyroll.com/kunai, that's crunchyroll.com/kunai for your 14-day free trial of Crunchyroll Premium service. Remember, you guys, we love Crunchyroll. We use them on Kunai. I personally love them. I personally use them all the time. We've been going to Crunchyroll events for a long time sponsor of the podcast. And you know what? They are the best place to watch anime legally online with over 30,000 episodes. And at the moment, if you're listening to this, they've got the largest fall lineup in history for fall 2022 with over 40 simulcasting titles. That is insane. So join Crunchyroll with our link, crunchyroll.com/kunai for 14-day free trial. In addition to that, you've got different perks with your premium service. You can either go with your mega fan, you can go with fan service, or your mega fan for 12 months. Personally, the biggest savings that you're going to make is if you do your mega fan option. If you live in the UK, that's only £60 a year. That's VAT inclusive. That's cheaper than any streaming service at the moment, especially if you're into anime. You got all your anime pretty much in one place. That's no ads, unlimited access to the Crunchyroll library, new episodes 1 hour after they air in Japan for your simulcasts, access to your digital manga, streaming on 4 devices at the same time, as well as offline viewing. You would not believe how many times offline viewing has saved me. Beyond the tube, there's no Wi-Fi, there's no 5G. I'm like, I want to watch anime. Boom! I'm watching Overlord. I'm watching Dr. Stone. I'm watching Naruto. I'm watching DBZ. You've got it all on Crunchyroll. So that's crunchyroll.com/kunai. That's crunchyroll.com/KUNAI. Back onto the episode. Are you a fan of anime and Japanese pop culture? I know I am. So why don't you get your asses down to Sugoimart? All right, that's sugoimart.com. Alternatively, you can use our link, getlifepodcast.com/sugoi. That'll take you to our special link on Sugoimart. That is getlifepodcast.com/SUGOI. And use our code GALP, that is GALP, for 15% off on everything on Sugoimart. And you can use the code multiple times if you really love Sugoimart and you're like, hell yeah, I'm gonna go and purchase the best things that Japan has to offer. Food and drink, beauty items, collectibles, toys and games. You can actually buy Gunpla from Sugoi Mart, as well as a lot of things for your home. Kitchen appliances, bathroom, bedroom stuff. They've got these really lovely Spy Family campus notebooks. I'm a big fan of stationery, as you guys know, and they've got that there as well. There's some really cool stuff on here. You can also purchase experience sets, which is basically like kits to make matcha, to make onigiri, and they'll provide everything basically. Whatever you want, Sugoi Mart has got it. They've got a lot of really cool stuff from Japan, and as you guys know, every sort of month or so they give us a care package that we show off to you guys, which I think is pretty cool. So they've got really nice stuff included. They also sell Pokemon cards and a lot of genuinely hyped stuff. What we want to do is that we want to find out the weirdest things on the Sugoi Mart website and get Sugoi Mart to send them to us. So Sugoi Mart, if you're listening, let's prepare that. Let's just get the weirdest stuff and send it my way. And we'll talk about it on a episode of Umai. They've got some really, really nice stuff. If you want to get items from Japan quite easily, some really nice quirky items, then you can go to sugoimart.com, use the code GALP for 15% off on your purchase. They've got some really nice stuff, whether you're an anime fan, whether you're a fan of Japanese culture, or even if you're a fan of Disney. They've got a lot of Disney items on there. So experience Japan from the comfort of your own home with Sugoi Mart. Use the code GALP for 15% off. Thank you, Sugoi Mart, for sponsoring this episode of the podcast. And back on to the episode. Okay, we are back. Hope you guys enjoyed the ad breaks for Sugoi Mart and Crunchyroll. And friendly reminder, once again, if you are a big fan of the show, or even if you're not a big fan of the show, give it a 5-star and engage with us a little bit more. Follow us on X, formerly known as Twitter. Join our Discord. Do all of that. Share it with your mates. All right? Anyway, Dynasty Warriors 2, when I went back to replay it, it was just as I remembered. But there was a lot of aspects that I was like, oh, wait, actually, I could have done this and the game would have been so much easier for me. I was making it difficult for myself. Like, I used to go and made sure to complete every sort of gate. You know those little gate bases in the corners of the maps where your enemies would spawn out of, right? The private, the sergeants, mages and stuff, they would sort of spawn from that point. I made it my goal in every Dynasty Warriors game, but it started with Dynasty Warriors 2 because I thought, as a kid, well, my whole point is I want to see that morale bar go fully to blue, because I always thought that the morale bar was sort of an indication of how you were doing within the game, almost like a life bar. To some extent it is. The morale bar does tell you how well you guys are doing in terms of your battle, but it doesn't always mean anything, because there'll be some battles where your morale bar would always be red, like the enemies would always have better morale than you. It was very arbitrary, but I was always trying to get that morale bar as high up as possible, not knowing what it meant, but just realizing that there is something to that. I'm going to try my best to get that morale bar fully blue to turn the tides of the battle, even if historically that battle would have not have gone well, for example. What do I mean? So what I was doing, I was capturing those gate bases. I was opening all the boxes. That was another thing. For some reason, I was intrigued by the boxes and the pots, and I would open all of them. Once again, yes, I did realize that, okay, you could find health in there, but even if I was at full health, I would still go in and I'd save, because back then, and I think they stopped this after Dynasty Warriors 5, but back then you had a limited number of saves, and they were always in these crates. I believe Dynasty Warriors 2 and 3 had this. Dynasty Warriors 4 and 5 had it slightly differently, but in Dynasty Warriors 2 and 3, you'd find these crates on the map. You'd break the crate and there'll be a little memory card symbol. When you go to that memory card, effectively what happens is that you'll be given a save point and you can save, and that's it. That's genuinely it. You'd almost have one save point every map. In later entries in the series, if we're talking about Dynasty Warriors 4 or 5, you had, depending on your difficulty, a limited number of saves. So you can save whenever you want, but there was a finite number of them. Unless you're playing on easy, then you get like unlimited saves. If you're playing on like nightmare mode, or back then it was called chaos mode, when you're playing on chaos, you didn't have that many. If it was hard or chaos, I think you only got like one save. The game was brutal back then in that sense. But Dynasty Warriors 2, you had to find those save boxes. This is something that I really kind of took for granted playing more modern Dynasty Warriors games, was that you could level up your characters, and I didn't necessarily know that, but it was basically an auto level as soon as you complete a stage. But when you defeat an enemy officer, depending on what type of officer they are, so for example, if they use the sword, if they use the fan, if they use a pike or a spear, or just historically the difficulty of that character, they would drop either like a sword or a shield, or in some case a stack of dim sum. That stack of dim sum would increase your health bar, and the sword and the shield would either increase your attack or your defense permanently. I did not know that that was a permanent thing. So by the end of the game, because I was basically hunting every enemy officer and I was repeating stages a lot, by the end of the game, because I was just playing as Dian Wei constantly, he was it made the game so much easier because Dian Wei was just fully maxed out at that point. He had a maxed out health bar, and back then your health bar would, which kind of still does, to be fair with you, but the health bar would overlap on itself and it would change color. It almost made it really irrelevant. You were just OP. That's just how it was. But I think if you defeated Lu Bu, you got like a +8. And bear in mind, I was always defeating Lu Bu, so I'd always get that +8 on attack, which just made Dian Wei just the most powerful character in the game, to be fair. I also didn't know that back then, that especially on like Yellow Turbans missions, that you can basically avoid the wind. I was dumb. I didn't know that because there was like these little notches in the hillside that you could go into to sort of shield yourself from the wind. The way I kind of got around it, I didn't realize this as a child, but the way I got around it was I was running and I would jump. Then I'd run and then I'd jump. So basically, as soon as it started pushing me back, I'd jump and it'd reset the animation. And I'm thinking, like, as a kid, I'm doing like insane hacks. I wouldn't do this nowadays because you have the logic, because it was very clear how the people that designed the game and coded the game wanted you to play. But I was almost like breaking the game as a child just to try and figure it out, because I didn't have the common sense to realize, oh, that's what I needed to do. So that was just kind of brought back a lot of memories, especially replaying it and just sort of enjoying it again. And like, oh, Bish, you're so dumb. Like, you could have just followed the game as it was. But it was interesting to me because I got to learn a lot about gaming. I got to learn a lot about, like I said, about puzzles, about all of these different things from one game, because I played the game however I wanted to play it, which it was very intriguing because you don't really get to see games like that nowadays. And it could be with any game. I think a lot of people, especially when they have their first gaming experience, whether it's Sonic or Super Mario or Dynasty Warriors in this case, no matter what the game is, there's always these features that make you learn more about gaming in general and will get you prepared for a particular type of game. Yes, hack and slashing was pretty simple. It was a very simple repetitive input, right? You'd always get the same results all the time, but it was always a different experience. Like I said, I used to just play as Dian Wei all the time, but every playthrough, it was always different for me. Like, even me and my sister were playing, we used to have like strategies together, especially when we were playing co-op, like on Dynasty Warriors 4 and 5. We'd always be like, you take the left side of the map, I'll take the right side of the map. Okay, and we'll join up here and we'll defeat Lu Bu, or we'll fight this battle or whatever. We were playing the game very strategically and we were playing it seriously, almost like MLG level. It was so weird, but it was because we were just so passionate about the game. Now, Dynasty Warriors 3, you might be thinking, oh, well, Bish, if you're passionate about Dynasty Warriors as a series, then you must have played Dynasty Warriors 3, right? Wrong. I never played Dynasty Warriors 3 until last year, I think. Either last year or 2 years ago or whatever. Like, I started playing Dynasty Warriors 3 at the start of this decade. That's insane. And you might be wondering, Bish, how did you... What? There's only been 2 Dynasty Warriors games that I've only played recently, and that's Dynasty Warriors 3 and Dynasty Warriors 6. Ooh. Really, Bish? Yes. The reason behind Dynasty Warriors 3 was because we didn't know about it. We didn't know about it as kids because a lot of the time you get your gaming information from magazines, right? Official PlayStation magazine, things like that. I think the Dynasty Warriors 3 was more of like an expansion game. A lot of people kind of considered it as like an Extreme Legends. A lot of people even felt that it was very similar to Dynasty Warriors 2, which is very fair. After playing it, I do feel the same because the Musos are the same. The attacks are the same. The graphics are slightly improved. The stages are pretty much the same. And in fact, a lot of the music is the same. It's a lot of reused assets, but at the same time, a lot of reused assets, but a lot more story within the game, a lot more characters within the game, a lot more stages. So Dynasty Warriors 3 was an interesting one for me personally. There was a lot of wacky voice lines in the game. A lot of people would kind of remember this one.
You flaming idiot!
Take this! Remember that? You flaming idiots, take this. I didn't grow up with that weird voice lines, but Dynasty Warriors 2 also had those weird voice lines as well, to be fair with you. It was also very interesting. The first thing that I noticed while playing Dynasty Warriors 3 was the fact that a lot of the attack sounds were not localized. What do I mean by that? They were done by the original Japanese voice cast. So, like, you know, when they make their grunting sounds like when they do that, that was from the original Japanese voice cast, even though the game was dubbed into English and I believe European languages as well. I think like French and German, other languages like that. But like I said, so the game had the original Japanese voice cast doing the attack sounds and also the Muso sounds, because, and this is how I knew it. I think probably back in the day, if I played it as a kid, I wouldn't understand it because it was in Japanese. I probably would have thought, okay, what's going on here? But now that I kind of understand a little bit of Japanese, and you know, I'm actively trying to learn Japanese, guys. Don't know if you guys know that, but being surrounded by Japanese games, playing Japanese games, and watching anime and learning Japanese, you pick up on some words, right? So I can't remember what character it was, but he was like shine, like he was basically saying die, you know what I mean? Like, or I can't remember who it was, but there was a character that was like oshiyokyo, you know what I mean? Like you know how like wang yuanji in English would be like time for your punishment, right? Which is, you know, that kind of stuff. But you'd hear the Japanese voice lines in the Musos, but the game would have an English dub, and it was just very weird. And obviously they kind of fixed that with Dynasty Warriors 4 and 5 and, you know, subsequent games. But it was just an interesting thing. I think for me, I almost would really enjoy playing Dynasty Warriors 3 a lot more. Initially, I am playing it, but not to the extent of Dynasty Warriors 2. There are some stages that I'm very familiar with, a lot of stages that have changed, characters and Musos. Dian Wei plays the exact same. So does Sun Zhang, so does Zhou Yu, Yu Shun. A lot of these characters play the exact same because they are the same characters. They just have a slightly updated outfit. In some cases, or not even outfit, because their outfits are pretty much the same, but slightly updated character models, right? So it's very interesting because even when you download the Dynasty Warriors nostalgia outfits in like Dynasty Warriors 7 or Dynasty Warriors 8 or even Warriors Orochi, they use the Dynasty Warriors 3 outfits and they would always mention, oh, these are the Dynasty Warriors 3 outfits. They never mentioned the Dynasty Warriors 2. I was always like, well, these are the exact same outfits, but I was still kind of annoyed because I was like, Dynasty Warriors 2 was my first game. Give us the Dynasty Warriors 2 outfits. Not realizing that Dynasty Warriors 2 and 3 basically had the same outfits, just slightly up-resed from 2 to 3. 3 also sort of introduced the line of Empires, I believe. No, Empires was 4, sorry. Extreme Legends. So 3 got an Extreme Legends. It also introduced Mixture, which was very interesting. Introduced a lot more characters, introduced side stories, and introduced the story of Dynasty Warriors, at least for a lot of people. A lot of people sort of speak very fondly about Dynasty Warriors 3 because that might have been their first game. A lot of people don't necessarily talk about Dynasty Warriors 2 because a lot of people consider 3 to be the better game. In essence, yes, 3 is the better game. I think compared 2 to 3, yes, it's almost like 3 was like the 2 Extreme Legends, right? It was a game that brought in a lot of improvements, and a lot of people didn't start with 2 as a result because they were like, well, it's the same game, just like added features. The stages are almost the same, but there's more of them. There's more characters. Blah, blah, blah. So a lot of people sort of started with 3 as a result. I started with 2 because, well, it was a launch title for the PS2 and I pretty much played a lot of PS2 games. So that is quite interesting. I think for me, am I going to continue to play Dynasty Warriors 3? Yes, I will really continue to play it because I want to get that nostalgia. I want to get back into it. I want to unlock everything I can. It's very interesting as well because there are times in which I want to go back and play the older Dynasty Warriors games, but because I've got all the save data from my original days, right, when we were playing probably not even hundreds of hours. We were playing thousands of hours of Dynasty Warriors, literally thousands of hours on a single save file. It's almost like I don't want to go back and play it anymore because that was that generation of Bish and that generation of Bish playing it. I almost want to forget about the game and just relive it from the very beginning. And this is where the unfortunate bit comes in. Like, yes, I can get that experience with Dynasty Warriors 2 and because I only played as Dian Wei, so in theory any other character that I play as on that same save will still have that sort of brand new feeling to me. And the same thing with Dynasty Warriors 3. I could really get to enjoy that game in its entirety, but I won't get that feeling with Dynasty Warriors 4 and I won't get it with 5 because I'll always have that save with me. So that was one thing that I was very intrigued about doing, is that I really wanted to play the game on the PlayStation 3 via the PlayStation Store. I was unlucky and lucky at the same time. I was lucky in the sense that I still have Dynasty Warriors 5 on my PS3 from the official PlayStation Store before Sony and I believe Koei took it out. That's the unfortunate thing because I didn't get Dynasty Warriors 4, which was on there at the time. Technically, I have the discs. I could still play the game on the discs, but there's something about it playing it digitally on a brand new save, knowing that if I want to go back to my old save, I can go back. And yes, technically, what I could do, I could just pop in a brand new memory card and then it's fine. right? I could start the game brand new memory card, all of that, right? I could do that. And I think that's probably what I might need to do when playing Dynasty Warriors 4 or 5 again. Just start fresh. Play the game from the very, very beginning, unlocking all the orbs, unlocking all the weapons, creating new characters in Dynasty Warriors 4. Like, experiencing the game all over again, falling in love with the series all over again. And that's why I was really hoping for a Dynasty Warriors remastered edition, or like a Dynasty Warriors HD collection, like we've seen with games like Sengoku Basara, right? I think it's time, and I keep on asking for it. It never happens. I think every year at TGS, we always do this episode on GALP where we're like, ooh, are we going to see a Dynasty Warriors remastered or Dynasty Warriors HD collection? And we never do, and we hype ourselves up for it. I've sort of given up on Koei from a Dynasty Warriors aspect. I know a Dynasty Warriors 10 is in development. I am very aware of that. I think a lot of us are. We're not stupid. We do know that something is coming up. And bear in mind, next year, so by next year I mean 2025, there will be an anniversary. There will be 25th anniversary of Shin Sangoku Musou. Dynasty Warriors 9 was done on the, I believe it was the 20th anniversary of Shin Sangoku Musou. So they will have to give us some sort of mainline Shin Sangoku Musou game on the 25th anniversary. That's when I'm handling it. That's when I think we're going to get a mainline title, whether it's going to be Dynasty Warriors 10 or whether they're going to sort of pull a Samurai Warriors 5 and just call it Dynasty Warriors or Shin Sangoku Musou or whatever. Or we could get like a reset on the series, you know what I mean? Kind of like what they're doing with like Mortal Kombat and other games like that, right? So we could get something like that. The fact that we got God Seekers as a part of the 20th anniversary fanfare, I have a feeling that if they're going to do a remastered collection, then they'll do it now. They'll do it in time for the Dynasty Warriors 10. And I think, Koei, if you're listening, please, what would make the fans really happy is that you announce Dynasty Warriors 10, and on the same day as your announcement, Koei, if you did this, I think you would gain so many fans if you do this. You would regain a lot of the old fans as well. On the day of a Dynasty Warriors 10 announcement, whether it's at TGS or at like a, probably they might do it at like a Sony State of Play or like a Nintendo Direct. Koei announced Samurai Warriors 5 at a Nintendo Direct. So I wouldn't be surprised if they announced Dynasty Warriors 10 at a Nintendo Direct. So they might do that. But like if they announce it at a Nintendo Direct and then at the end of it was like, and you could buy Dynasty Warriors HD collection right now on the eShop. You don't think that would get a lot of people gassed? Even if it's a Switch exclusive, at this point, I think people would buy a Nintendo Switch just to play an HD collection of Dynasty Warriors, right? Because let's be real. If Dynasty Warriors 8 can play on the Switch well, right? Because it's a PS3 game at the end of the day. If that could play well on the PS3 and the Nintendo Switch and the Xbox 360, we could definitely get like Dynasty Warriors 2, 3, 4, and 5, and 6. If you want to push it to 6 and 7, why not, Koei? Just do it. Just do it. So yeah, that was kind of what I was talking about. And I think this is a really fantastic episode. I'm really excited for the next episode in this sort of Dynasty Warriors mini-series. The next episode, we're going to be focusing on Dynasty Warriors 4 and 5. Bear in mind, you're going to have to give me some time. I'm going to have to play Dynasty Warriors 4 and 5 over the weekend. I'm going to start with a brand new save. I'm going to try and unlock all the orbs and stuff. That's going to take me bloody ages, right? But I'm going to do my best. And if not, I'll just go back to my original save. If I'm really lazy, I'll go back to my original save. Why not? You guys won't know the difference, will you? No, but seriously, the next episode will be Dynasty Warriors 4 and 5, and then after that, we're doing an episode on 6 and 7. Interesting about 6, because also never got to play 6 until recently, and I'll explain that within the Dynasty Warriors 6 and 7 episode. We might do an episode on 8 and 9. We've already spoken really extensively on Dynasty Warriors 9, so it might be the case that we don't talk about Dynasty Warriors 9, and we just focus on 6, 7, and 8 in one episode, and then our end of month episode, which will be with Jacob. We will be talking about Dynasty Warriors 10, our predictions, what we want to see. I also want to get Chris Gildat on there, but I think, you know what, we might have 2 episodes. Actually, I don't really know. We might have an episode with Jacob, we might have an episode with Chris. I haven't decided yet, so let me know in the comments below. Who do you want to see? No, I'm joking, I'm not going to do that. But on a serious note, we are definitely going to be doing a discussion episode. That's how these new style of episodes are going to work. So a theme for the month. Like I said, this month is Dynasty Warriors. Every week within that month, there will be other episodes that will link back to the main theme of the episode, which in this case, Dynasty Warriors. And then at the end of the month, you'll have your major discussion, which is that longer GALP episode that is just longer in content. We kind of pick it apart a bit more. Content that you guys love and enjoy, but also this means that you guys can get additional content throughout the weeks as well. That doesn't mean that we're not going to be continuing review roundups. So you might get additional episodes within the month. So we are dedicated to doing that weekly episode on that theme of game for that month. But then also there will be other games that we'll be reviewing within that. And so you'll see review roundups popping in. So in this case, we just did one last week in which it was a Yakuza, sorry, I can't say Yakuza anymore, the Like a Dragon Gaiden game. We reviewed that, and also you'll be seeing another one potentially this week or the week after alongside our Dynasty Warriors 4 episode, where we're going to be doing a review roundup on Persona 5 Tactica, and then also another episode with Jacob talking about Fashion Dream on the Nintendo Switch, as well as an episode on Super Mario RPG. So like I said, it's all in an effort to bring you guys more content. We're dedicated to give you guys an episode a week, but you might get multiple episodes a week depending on what we're reviewing and what we're playing. So enjoy that, get into it a little bit more, share it with your friends, give us a 5-star rating. I know a lot of podcasts ask for that, but they ask it for a reason, because it helps us with our algorithms, and it also helps us grow a lot more and get more sponsorships opportunities and things like that. Speaking of sponsors, big thanks to our sponsors Crunchyroll and Sugoimart. In addition to that, you can follow us on X at Gal Podcasts, as well as Instagram at Gal Podcasts. Reels, we don't really use Reels, but if you want to follow us on Reels, at Gal Podcasts, as well as our Discord, getalifepodcast.com/Discord. We're trying to get more into the Discord a little bit. I'm a little bit of a boomer, even though I'm not a millennial, but I'm a little bit of a boomer. I'm trying to learn how to use Discord a little bit other than for recordings. I remember back in the day when we were doing Kunai, I was very much against Discord. Kevin was like, yeah, you need to use Discord. I was like, no, Kevin, we're going to record everything through Skype. And I was adamant, and I made the wrong choice, but you know, we've transitioned over to Discord. So be sure to join our Discord server and be a part of Discord and just part of the community in general. So hope you guys enjoy it. We'll talk to you guys next week's episode. Next time on Gal. Oh, you know what? I need to get the guy that says next time on Dragon Ball Z. I need to get him to do a cameo where we get him to say next time on GALP. I would love that. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this episode. And as always,
stay sexy.
See, I've got Jacob to say the stay sexy, which is a podcast tradition at this point. It was actually a kunai tradition, but you know what? We just got with the stay sexy. I can't say it anymore. So that's why I got Jacob to say it. Anyway, bye.